welcome to the Avita Yoga for a Lifetime podcast. I'm Pippa and I'm here to introduce today's Avita Yoga community chat, recorded live and available now to listen to anytime. The Avita Yoga community chat is a free, informal and welcoming Q&A with Jeff, the founder of Avita Yoga, where students and teachers alike can bring their questions and learn from each other to deepen their understanding of the practice and their own bodies. In today's chat, we have a real mix of questions, opening with how to practice with shoulder injuries and frozen shoulder, when to hold back and when to gently push to resolve the lack of mobility, some advice on using strap work to strengthen hands, and going deeper, Jeff speaks to why all love is self-love, with insights from his studies and life experiences. Lastly, tackling thumb pain and arthritis at the base of the thumb, and the delicate issue of forward flexion for those with osteoporosis. Now on to the chat. Enjoy.
I think I'll start off by just welcoming you all and letting you know how excited Pip and I both are to launch the podcast. So these have been going on for many years now, and people have been saying, geez, Jeff, you should just get the audio alone and turn these into a podcast. And so finally, we're getting around to that, and it's pretty cool. It's working out way better than I thought. So, and it's nice. You can just listen to it. You don't have to watch it, although we do have it on YouTube, which does include a little bit of video. I think we'll start off. I know that Mathis has a question, but Kim came in with her question first. So let's go there. And Kim, if I can summarize, you had an injury. You were walking your dog, and this is pretty classic. The dog starts to chase a rabbit or goes off, and you have the leash in your hand, and it does this yank. And sometimes I've heard students say that it's really painful and pretty severe, but you had said that it wasn't terribly noticeable. It's like all you can remember, right?
Yeah.
The only thing that could be contributing to this issue in your shoulder, which is not moving. Right? We're not going to call it frozen. All right. Frozen is generally what happens after 6 months of not moving it. And then you get such strong calcification and the bone literally starts to change shape. And then it's a little bit more challenging to get the movement. So you're in this window of time here where we can really affect some change. You were at the Annapolis workshop, and that's where we work one-on-one a little bit. Mm-hmm. So your question has to do with putting the sandbags on your hands when you're in the T shape. Do you have someone that can place them for you?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So you get the sandbags set up to their closest approximation. You're lying on your back, your knees are bent, your feet are on the floor. The sandbags are out to the side, arm length away. So you roll over and you get one on your hand. And what you do is you get the sand all the way down in one end, and then you just do your best to lay it over one hand. And it's nice if you capture some of the wrist and the palm.
Okay.
And it's also nice if you have a surface, like even a carpeted surface, or if you have a couple extra yoga mats, put them out underneath your hand, because we want the friction. In addition to the weight coming down, the whole idea is we don't want your hand moving. And it has to be in a place where you feel some of the restriction in the shoulder, but it's super sustainable. You could almost fall asleep there. So both hands are out in this T shape with the weight. And we oftentimes do some of the neck and head turns here because shoulder issues are pretty intimately tied into neck issues, and you can do those head turns. But that's the nature of that particular shape. You've also said that you've been at this now for a few weeks and you're not seeing much progress. Is that right?
I'm not in pain constantly all day, so that is an improvement. And I think that I have a little bit more mobility. I can't, this side, of course, I can get right up. This one is still.
Is there pain there or just limited movement?
Limited, and then I can push it into pain, Okay. But so, yeah, there's been some improvement.
All right. So we talked about doing the strap work.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yep.
later we talked about holding the elbows and doing this work going overhead.
Right.
You're going to have to be a tiny bit more aggressive on it.
Okay.
The fact that the pain has subsided means we're on the right track.
Okay.
And I know you talked to Nicole personally, one of my teachers who worked through this very issue. And she had the same thing. She's been through 5 of my teacher trainings. She gets this stuff inside and out. But when she was doing the shoulder work in class one day, I said, Nicole, what are you doing? She goes, it hurts. I said, Nicole, you just have to stay on it. You got to work into that irritated area. And she did, she trusted, she started to get better. And then it started to really kick in. So all of that, whether you're doing this work, the strap work, or even just one at a time with nothing, you're going to have to enter into some of that pain.
Okay.
You talked about going to the procedure where they put you under anesthetic and they do it all at once. So if they can do that under anesthetic and do it all at once, that gives us some confidence to go after it.
Okay.
Yeah. And I can speak personally. I've had shoulder issues and injuries, and I know what it feels like to go into that questionable area. But you'll soon find out that though it is intense, it is healing sensation.
Okay.
Okay, so try that for like 10 days or so, and then email me. Let me know how it's going.
Okay. And 10 days, but with a day off in between? Or do something every day?
Do something every day.
Okay.
And then trust your gut on it. Do I need a rest day? Maybe it's just sandbags one day, but I think almost every day you're doing either the strap work or this, and you're going for it.
Okay.
Yeah, you're literally remodeling your shoulder. And there's not that much to remodel right now. It's a small project at this stage of the game. So you'll regain that range of motion, and with it, the health and the freedom that you want.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Who's next? We have a really nice turnout here. Anybody have a burning question? Mathis, I know you do. But let's see. Who else raises their hand? Jennifer, was that a raising hand? Yeah. Okay. You just have to unmute.
Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Jennifer.
Yeah, so I have a question on, working with a Avita student who they're arriving at Avita at the end of a day where they have employment where they use their hands a lot. So in this case, it's someone who's a tattoo artist. So a lot of, holding the tools of that profession, but also even like dental hygienists or, carpenters, or when they show up and if you would just speak to the strap work and when they're feeling pain, so it just kind of gets triggered right away. I'm looking for input on how to back them off and find a starting point and how to progress with that if it's just too activating to hold the strap.
Yeah. The answer is a little bit similar to what I shared with Kim. It's interesting how when there's a specific issue like that, like arthritis, and when we start to get into these places where there's some degeneration, our knee-jerk reaction is to avoid the pain. We're just innately programmed for that. And so you're going to have to coach them in a similar way. And by the way, Jennifer just graduated from the recent Avita yoga teacher training. So this is a private session you're doing?
2 people, but yes.
Semi-private. Yeah. The strap work we do, you're talking about hands high, the straps around the foot, right? And so there's all kinds of work we're doing on the leg and the foot and the ankle, but there's an equal amount of work that we're doing on the fingers, hands, and thumbs. And to put it in perspective, I've had 27-year-old young men in a class next to a 63-year-old woman who's been in the practice for a while. And the woman is just hanging out there. She could stay there for a long, long period of time, no problem, because she has conditioned her joints and her fingers and her muscles and her mind and her nervous system. Everything is reorganized around that elevated hanging quality. And I believe that if we go back through evolution, we're designed to hang from our hands. So we're just simulating that. And all it is the weight of our shoulders and arms. So this woman can be having no problem, but the young man is just struggling like crazy. And he's got, he's muscular and he's athletic and all these things. So it must be something else we're working with besides sheer strength. That's why I love the word conditioning. We're conditioning the muscles. We're conditioning the joints. We're conditioning it and reorganizing everything together to be able to hang out there. And it is a reflex. When we're babies, it's one of the first reflexes we learn is to grip a finger. So think of it as this reflex, and you're going to have to coach them and help them understand that working into that sensation is just fine. When they're finished, they don't stretch, they don't shake it out, they don't complain, they just rest their hands. You let the physiology within deal with it, take a rest, go on to the next thing. Maybe it's hands under the head or something where there's still pressure on the hands, but it's passive. But especially entering into the points where there's some arthritis from the overuse and fine detail of using the fingers and hands, it's just part of the deal. We got to go into that to clean it out. And you know all the physiology. All the physiology is there. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it helps. I think when there's a quick response of it's too much, too fast, too soon, then I think about how to be thoughtful about the strap work.
Then give them
that's going to show up.
Wrap it for them. Just take the tail of the strap, wrap it around their palm, and let them be in the shape with the wrap.
Okay.
And that'll just let them know that you have a heart and that it's okay. And they're still elevated. They're still holding a little bit, but all the stress has gone away. It's still beneficial. And then the next time you come back, you just do that again until the day comes when they'll be able to sustain it. It might be a while if they're working through arthritis, but I can't think of a better way to clean that up.
That helps. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, Kendall.
Hi, Jeff. I have a question about the sacroiliac joint.
Yeah.
You mentioned that in the osteoporosis workshop.
Yeah.
That it's important to, I don't remember how you said it, but to avoid aggravating it. But first of all, I don't know how to tell the difference between sciatica and SI joint issues. They seem to be similar, and I'm experiencing some of that right now. And I'd just like to hear what you have to say about how to prevent aggravating that area. What is it that I'm looking for?
Mm-hmm. You said you have it right now. Is it sciatic pain, or do you think it's SI pain that you have right now?
Well, I have had sciatica before, so that's what I think it is.
Yeah. Is it radiating down your leg?
It's mostly in my haunch.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not the big radiating thing, but yeah, it's what we've been working on now for quite a while. Right? It's that hip.
Yeah, it is. 2 weeks ago, it was the other hip, though, after I took an aqua class and apparently overdid it.
So the low back and hip freedom workshop, I go into the anatomy so you can see the detail of it all. But I talk more about the sciatic nerve and how it travels through these muscles. When the muscles get irritated or overworked for any reason, then they grab. And depending on the setup, the sciatic nerve takes lots of different circuitous routes, unique to each of us. And so depending on how it goes through your musculature will depend on what affects it. So it's just a tightening of those muscles on it. Today's class, incidentally, I opened with the shapes at the wall that are designed to release those muscles. You might just check it out. You know them, but I'm not going to go into them right now. The SI joint, that's sacroiliac joint. So the sacrum is the triangular bone at the bottom of the spine, and it's sandwiched. It's actually wedged. It's an upside down triangle that wedges down like a keystone of a building or a bridge between the two iliac bones, the pelvis. It tends to be the more vulnerable part of the entire setup. If there's a tight hip and or a tight low back, then, and we're pushing, doing athletic things, doing lots of classic yoga or ballet or those kind of things, then it's the SI joint that can get destabilized quickly and pretty easily. The thing that happens with it is that once it starts to get destabilized, it starts to get movement where there really shouldn't be movement. And so it gets to be a little bit abrasive in there. And it'll start to stabilize a bit if we're kind to it and don't do much. And then all of a sudden, you know, we go out and dance, or we do an aqua class, or we do something that we really like to do, and all of a sudden it gets jarred loose again a little bit. It's like a scab coming off, you know, and it needs that the scar tissue in there really needs to take shape to stabilize it. It's why we do the work at the wall, like the Sukhasana shape at the wall and the Baddha Konasana shape at the wall. So I'm pushing into the feet, moving my sacrum against the wall. And now when I curve, I'm not going to irritate. I'm not going to let movement come into the SI joint. I'm only going to get it in the hip and the low back. So that's one way we target the places that need to move and preserve the part of the SI joint that just wants to be stable. There's also a classic movement that I'll demonstrate here that is so typical that almost everybody loves to do it. So here it is. You're lying on your back. Some people probably just do this getting out of bed. You're lying on your back and you put one leg up and you roll over like this. And sometimes you get some cracking down the spine and it just feels like a really good stretch. But that movement in particular drives pressure into the SI joint. And if somebody has a little irritation in the SI joint, they're in their 20s and 30s, it can actually sort of feel good to pardon the expression, to kind of grind into it. It's like an attraction to the wrong kind of pain. And then it'll feel good for a little while, but then it just keeps coming back. And you have to stop people who do that. You just have to stop that movement. That is a movement that I just demonstrated, especially when you let your leg come all the way down and whatnot. I just think it's contraindicated for everybody. Does that help?
Well, that's a stretch I used to do, and I stopped doing it years ago.
Yeah. There's such a deep desire to do that, and we just have to kind of fight it a little bit.
Yeah.
All the twisting that we do in the Avita practice, we're stabilizing that area, and then we bring the rotation. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Mathis.
I thought it would be a great discussion about when you said all love is self-love.
Yeah.
How you're meaning that. That's a pretty loaded thing.
Yes. Yeah, I know, because we tend to love an other, right? And this whole concept first dawned on me when I was in graduate school, but I never graduated from. But I was in graduate school as a master's in counseling psychology that I got about halfway through and got the therapy I needed, and then I left. But I did a thesis paper on Martin Buber, Dr. Martin Buber, who was a Jesuit priest. And he wrote this book called I Thou. And he had the I Thou relationship that he talked about. That was his whole thing, the I-thou relationship. And then there's the I-it relationship that objectifies, that I see an other outside of myself that I either have special love for or special hate for. And it's a setup. It's a setup to believe that there's an other outside of us that we can put our love onto or our hate onto. And then we get into the whole discussion about all the different levels of hate and all the different kinds of love. Like I have special love for my pet, but then I have another kind of love for my favorite football team. And then I have certain love for a family member, but even a different kind of love for a different family member. So that's one way that the ego maintains a separate sense of self. By putting all these different parts in a box, in their own special little place. And what Martin Buber was suggesting is to start to move in our mind. We start to move toward the I-thou relationship where there is no difference. And we start to realize that the moment we create either a special love or a special degree of hate for another, if we really look carefully, it reflects on us. Especially if we look at the word hate. It's a word that, quite simply, we like to avoid that word. But if a thought is not a thought of love, then it must be a thought of hate. Because deep down, we can only have one or the other. We can vacillate back and forth very quickly. But A Course in Miracles tells us there are no neutral thoughts. We may think that we can think neutrally, but if we really close our eyes and get detailed with our practice, we start to deeply benefit by looking at our categorization of love and hate. And then there's the quote from the Bible. We reap what we sow. And most of us put that idea on a timeline. So if I make a financial donation, if I make a charitable organization today, something good will happen to me in the future. Or if I plant this seed in the ground now and water it, nurture it, someday I'll have a potato plant or a corn plant or whatever. So we tend to take that timeless idea and we put it on a timeline. But what Jesus was trying to tell us in that moment was we reap what we sow in the moment. So whatever thought we give away, and this is the law of attraction. It's a universal law that goes unnoticed. Whatever we give away is instantly received. So if that's a universal law, then I want to be super, 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 super careful of what thoughts I give away. And why would I not just want to give only love? So the more I start to look at my categorizations, look at my grievances, look at all the special relationships that I start to form, catch myself, and then say, wait a minute. I reap what I'm sowing. I want to feel love. I want to feel joy. I want to be in total peace. So then, back to the Course, it says, teach peace to learn it, or teach peace, or teach love to know it. And so that's why all love, or we could say all hate, whatever degree it is also self-love or self-hate. we start to make that switch and everything starts to change. We just start to, we just start to burst with joy and love. And that's what we want. And then that's how the world heals too. We can't change it. We can change the way we perceive it. It's a deep, but very, very good question.
That's great. Thanks. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah, all gratitude. Like I just had this deep feeling of gratitude. All gratitude is self-gratitude. I mean, there may be symbols of it, like everybody coming over for dinner, or paying off a loan, or something in the outer world that is a symbol that sparks the feeling of gratitude. But then, whoa, let me just remember that I can be gracious for gratitude itself. Okay, we got a few minutes left here. Any other questions or comments on even on that? Hey, Marcia.
Okay, you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
I have a lot of arthritis in my right hand here, and I can do all the strap work. I can hold on the strap, so that's not the issue. But I find my thumb more and more, I can't get my hand separated.
Down here?
Yeah, down in here.
What do you mean you can't get your hands separated?
Well, I mean, I can't make I have a hard time. I really have to push on it to get it to open up. It just wants to stay back in here all the time.
Oh, I see. Your thumb wants to go to sort of
this
flex
away. Right. Yeah. And so because I can do all the strap work, I've been trying just to put like a sandbag on it and help it stretch it or whatever. I mean, does that help really? I lay my hand with the sandbag over the top, stretched out.
Yeah, that's good. That's helpful. But this is something I learned in Rolfing school. And it's a huge piece of Avita yoga. Sometimes we have to go into the pattern or into the restriction to unwind it. So if your thumb wants to move in like this, kind of in the,
right,
you're holding up 4 digits. If your thumb has a pattern of going in like that, let it. Let it go there. And then actually find the cramp. Is there a cramp in there?
Yes. Yeah, down in here.
Yep. So then you not only let it go there, but you say, oh, okay, you want to go there? I'll go there with you. And then you actually increase it a little bit, find the cramp. Okay, that would be the active pose or shape.
That hurts.
Yeah, it hurts. But the muscle, and this is going back to the piriformis question asked earlier. Sometimes there's things that irritate the muscle, but sometimes it's arthritis or a deeper condition in an adjacent bone or joint that causes the irritation. And that's probably what's going on here. You got a little arthritis down here in the base of the thumb.
Yeah.
So you take the active version, and then when you're done, if you can ride that cramp out and just let it run its course, then don't shake it, don't stretch it, don't do anything. Just rest it. Set it in your lap and really let it rest and recover on its own. Okay? Then once it's fully recovered, if you want to, then you go into more of a active opening your hands out wide.
Okay.
Now, I actually have, if you go on to the Union platform and do a search, I have a class dedicated to this actual very thing.
Oh, okay.
I think if you search thumb, you'll see a thumb class. And, and here's the other piece I'll share real quick. The passive part of it is this. You relax your hand and then you squeeze with your other hand and find your way into the arthritis there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. I can feel that.
You do that quite a bit. Like Kim is going to start doing the shoulder work daily. you can do that almost daily.
Okay. Alrighty. Oh, Jeff, I can't tell you how much better my knees are since I've been doing, I go back to that healthy knees class over and over and over, classes over and over again. I mean,
Yeah.
I thought for sure I was going to have surgery. I have one other quick question. Do you have a second?
Sure.
I have a huge varicose vein in my left leg, and it has never bothered me, but I'm starting to get some pain in it. And so I've been doing legs up the wall to try to at least get the blood flowing, but is there anything else to do?
I don't know.
Yeah, okay. I don't either. Okay, I'll just keep doing that. At least I know the blood gets out.
Yeah.
Okay. All righty.
Okay.
I appreciate it. This will be great. I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Jeff.
Okay. Thank you, Marcia. Okay, Beth.
I just want to talk with you again about that. I'm sleeping with the sandbags on my arms at night and on my shoulders. And I put them here and then down to my elbows. And I turn my palms up to help them get used to external rotation. That seems to be, as best I can guess, what's happening with all the things in the shapes that are hard for me, have to do with external rotation. I mean, everything is hard for me. Just for an example, I can't move my bolster. You know, it's just heavy. I have to get up and move it and then do. I can never just move it back or that kind of thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, but I'm starting to have a lot of sensation below the elbow and in my hands now. So I'm glad because it's not all in the shoulder.
It's moving.
It's moving. And so it helps me to feel more hope that it isn't just a damaged shoulder that will never get better.
Yeah.
It is getting better, but man, it's taking so long. It still makes me cry. It hurts.
Yeah.
I just wanted to talk with you about that aching and burning in my forearms now and in my hands.
It's only during the shape though, right? Or does it persist afterwards, the aching and burning?
It's intermittent.
Okay. Yeah.
But mostly it's I still can't put my arms around the bolster ends. And I can't put my hands over my head very often. But sometimes, I wrote you, that sometimes I can get them over my head.
Yeah.
But reaching straight up is hard. This morning, I did an Automuka shape because it kind of made me put my hands over, and I haven't done one in years, but I just did a down dog on my mat as a way to get my arms to go up. But I can't, I have trouble putting dishes away, even on the first shelf. Just to lift a dish up to put on the first shelf is very difficult for me. Still.
Yeah.
So any tips?
Well, this is what you're sharing is for all of us. This is for you, Kim. This came on very late in life for Beth, and you also have a long history of Iyengar yoga, right?
Yeah.
And it's just a different approach. And I will say, that the downward dog, I don't teach it in the green or the orange classes because so many people that I really like to help have shoulder issues and have wrist and hand issues that we have to rectify before we go in that direction. But that's what downward dog is reaching overhead with weight, right? Holding your whole body up like that. So you want to just try it and go into it as a little bit of an experiment, but it's not very sustainable, right? I mean, it's shaky and it takes a lot of strength that really pushes into your shoulders to get there, right?
Yes, the thing I like about it, even if I'm not putting my feet very far back, if I just do a forward bend and put my hands flat on the floor, I'm recognizing that this is a way to give compression to my shoulders and to make them go up.
Yeah.
But I have to use gravity to help. As far as to stand up and put my hands up, like to reach up to a monkey bar or something. I don't think I could do it. But to stand upside down, put my hands on the ground, and then lean into to get compression in my shoulders, that's what I've been doing to try to help them learn that it's okay to go that shape.
Yeah. Well, all right, let me demo a couple things. So first of all, you guys, when I got this email from Beth about that she had been sleeping with sandbags on her shoulders, I had never even thought of that. Nobody's ever done it before, but she emailed in and said she's sleeping with a sandbag on each shoulder, flat on her back, and it's helping. So we chalk that one up for all of us. Couple things here. Remember this shape when we come to the wall in a really simple Sukhasana, the heels come in close, and then we, you know this one, Beth? Yeah. So this is a progression toward downward dog.
Yes.
And you can literally let your fingers do the walking. You just walk your fingers up a little bit, and that's the downward dog shape.
Yeah. Okay.
In a super healthy relationship to gravity that's sustainable.
Okay.
We're just going to go after those shoulders every way we can. And the fact that you're getting sensation elsewhere in your arms really does indicate to me that it's moving, things are changing. It's starting to work. Yeah. Now, one other thing, since we brought the downward dog up, you can try this. The downward dog on the knees, on the bolster. Maybe someday I'll teach this, but you can, so there's this shape, but then you can start to come up on your knees a little bit.
Oh, good.
And with the bolster under the knees, it just helps, it helps you manage the shape. You don't need to perfect downward dog.
Yeah.
You just put that movement into the shoulders.
It looks good. If I ever get my hands in a goalpost shape, it will be absolutely amazing.
Cause for celebration.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But you did indicate that you're making progress, right? You're getting close.
Well, yes. I mean, I couldn't even do a T-shape when I first started your classes 2 years ago. I couldn't even put them in a T-shape. So now the fact that I can bend them around the bolster ends just a little, it's big progress.
And then let's not forget where you might be if you weren't doing any of this. So it's more than we think. So let me just review. You can have your head on the bolster, and then you're moving in this direction, right?
Well, yes. In my mind.
Are your hands up like this, or is your?
They're up like that. They're up like that.
Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah, that about right there.
Okay. Yeah. That's it. Little increments.
Okay, good.
Kim has a small remodeling project. Yours is a little bit bigger.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I thought for a long time it was only my right shoulder. And so I was actually in an odd way encouraged when my left shoulder started doing it, because then I felt like it's not just a right shoulder injury. It's, whatever. And I'm not getting x-rays. I'm not getting scans. I'm not going to doctors. Mm-hmm. And I don't need anybody to tell me some kind of diagnosis. Mm-hmm. I just need to know that little by little, I can get movement in it.
Yeah.
Both of them.
All right. We're cheering you on.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks for dropping in, Beth.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just have a question. I watched your osteoporosis workshop, loved it, loved those shapes for osteoporosis, but could you talk a little bit more about forward flexion being contraindicated when how I fought forward flexion when I first started Avita? I fought you on it, and then you come and say it's contraindicated, and I'm like, what the heck? So I
Yeah,
kind
so
of got it's only for people who have been certifiably diagnosed with osteoporosis. That's what I kind of came away with.
that's true. And it's a huge catch-22. So Lynn is a teacher training graduate, and she came in from the school of thought, and there's lots of different schools of thought out there that say, extend the spine, and only extend the spine. Never flex forward. For what they have all their rationale behind it. But I just look at a spine and say it goes in all different kinds of ways. And then I will say that if you sort of push toward extension, you will resolve some pain. It's a pretty good way to resolve some pain, but it does not get to the problem. So in Avita Yoga, we go for all the different movements. And incidentally, on Monday, the last 30-minute class I did, that's all we did. It's a half-hour class, and we just took the spine through its full range of motion. There's some side bending, there's everything. It's kind of a sweet class. So first of all, where Lynn is coming from, and a lot of people come from, is this idea that it's okay to flex the spine. Everything we've been taught, shoulders back, heart open, blah, blah, blah. And why do we want that movement? Because there's this thing called stenosis. Its calcification starts to show up where joints don't move. It's a universal thing in the body. And so in the spine, if we don't get flexion, we get calcification around the spinal cord. And it doesn't take a ton of movement. We don't have to be gymnasts in order to keep that from happening. We just need to have some movement there. So we want all the different possibilities. All that sounds great. Lynn had this huge paradigm shift. She's shifted away from all these rules that we impose on the body. And then I come along and say, okay, if you have osteoporosis, then flexion of the spine is contraindicated. It's not what all doctors say. It's what most doctors say. And because it was an osteoporosis workshop, I needed to be in alignment with that. And if you notice, I addressed it, but then I also said, how can you possibly go through a day and not flex your spine forward? How do you put your pants on? How do you tie your shoes? How do you do anything and not have some flexion of the spine? You would have to go through your day and fight that. And so a little bit of flexion, I think, is inherent and very practical. And if somebody with osteoporosis, this is so your diagnosis with osteoporosis, and where do they test? Oh, I forgot. The spine and the hip, I think, is what they test. I would suggest, see, and this is where I'm kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. If some flexion is inherent and natural and almost impossible to avoid, then why not let some of that natural flexion just come into your practice? So here you are, you're sitting on the bolster, got your legs out in front of you. And so here is this person with the diagnosis, just trying to keep it from flexing forward. And what I'm suggesting is just to soften it a little bit, just let a little bit of the possibility come in. Why is it contraindicated? Because if a person has osteoporosis and they flex the spine, there's an increased risk of fracturing the vertebral bodies because it's become so brittle. And the discs have become brittle inside, and the risk is that you're going to fracture something. So what do you do? If the body sort of thrives on the use it or lose it principle, what are you going to do? Are you going to protect yourself into better health? Or are you going to start to use it a tiny bit? I don't know. It's just one of those things that you're just going to have to feel into your own practice and decide. And I know that, well, I don't know for sure, Lynn, but you're more theoretically asking the question than having a concern for yourself, right?
It's not for myself. I just wanted to hear you talk about it again. It was kind of shocking to me to hear that from your voice. And for my students, I mean, I don't ask people if they have osteoporosis. I don't know if I should be asking that, if I should be more aware of that before I start telling everybody to flex, to curve forward. It's because I've got a lot of like 70 and 80-year-old students, and I'm getting more and more, Jeff. So, that was more my concern. As a teacher, how do I address this?
In all my years of teaching in person, I had students come in that had osteoporosis. And at that point in my career, I wasn't even aware of this contraindication. And they kept coming back, and they would have the curve, they would follow along. Some of them were kind of delicate in their approach, but I never pushed them. I never heard about anybody getting injured. So you can ask the question and maybe share a little bit, but I guess, Lynn, it's a little bit of a can of worms. You're just going to have to trust your heart on it.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a lot of information that I've shared here with you. I wouldn't ever give that kind of a dissertation in a class.
Yeah.
You can just feel it out on a case-by-case basis and watch them move. You're trained to use your eyes and watch them move. And if you see them just moving a little bit, then go make an inquiry. Find out what they're feeling. Find out what they've been told on a kind of a case-by-case basis. And ultimately, as you know from the teacher training, fear is a big part of the restriction. So in that sense, we have to address fear of the mind first and let that start to unwind, which is this super gentle way of teaching and meeting people. I know we probably didn't get to all your questions, but thank you very much for joining in. Yeah. I'll see you next time. Email me with any questions, and I love you. Pouring the love out. All right. Namaste.
Hello again. If you enjoyed today's chat, please share it with friends and family and subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you have a question for Jeff and the Avita Yoga community, or know someone who does, why not join a live chat? They're on the first Wednesday of the month at 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. You'll find the link in the episode notes. Thanks for listening.